Okay, it is 5:21 p.m. on Tuesday, November 10th. We are in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and I'm here speaking with...
Melissa Caron.
Okay, how do you spell your last name?
Carone.
Okay. And you are a resident of Michigan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There we go. Great. How long have you been a resident of Michigan, Melissa?
My whole life.
Your whole life? Okay. And take it, are you over 18 years of age?
Yes.
Okay, great. What days were you involved with the election this year?
So I was involved, I started my training on the 2nd.
Can I get you to speak up just a little bit?
I'm sorry. I started my training on the 2nd.
Okay.
Then I started work at the TCF Center at 6 a.m. on the November 3rd, and I worked straight until 4:30 a.m.
Okay.
November 4th.
So when you speak of your training, who were you trained by?
I was trained by one person at Dominion
Dominion being...
Dominion Voting Services.
Okay.
They provided all the hardware for the election.
Okay.
I was doing IT work.
Okay.
His name was David Stahl.
David Stahl. Okay. And so what did your training involve?
Honestly, they gave us a binder, told us to look through it, let us know that we couldn't physically handle any of the hardware, that we were there to assist strictly.
Okay. Now, as far as Dominion Voting Services goes, you mentioned they provided hardware for the election. Do they have any role in terms of software as well that you are aware of?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So tell me more about your job. What was you mentioned that you were IT, but I really want to have an idea for what your role was.
So my main role was really just walking around and making sure that we had a lot of paper jams due to the mail-in ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the tabulators, they would jam 5-6 times an hour. So I would walk around and make sure that all the employees, all the counters were not having any issues. That
Okay.
their scanners were working, not stopping, that they didn't have any errors on their PCs. And if they did, I would go from there.
Okay. So did you see anything out of the ordinary? I mean, I'm sure something must have raised your level of concern to get you to come forward and speak with us. In your own words, and take your time, can you kind of tell us what this is all about?
Yeah. So it did take me a little while to really realize that there was something going on.
Okay.
It was when I was walking, one of the scanners got jammed, and
one of the tabulating machines?
The tabulating,
okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Just to be sure we're clear.
Yeah, so they call them scanners too.
Okay.
You know.
I didn't know that. I've never worked in an election, so.
Yeah.
You know better than me, yeah.
So I may refer to them as the tabulators
that's
as
fine. That's
scanners.
fine.
The counters, they get stacks of ballots in 50s. It's called a batch.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're brought the batch, they have to straighten it out, make sure all the ballots are straight.
The poll workers are doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then they would put them on the tabulator machine. The tabulator machine would it would just like a scanner, pull it through, and they would be on top.
Right.
When they ended. Well, when they got jammed, I wasn't allowed to once again touch anything, so I would just go up to the worker and I would say, okay, just pull it out slowly. And what they were supposed to do is take the problem ballot that got jammed, and they were supposed to discard the whole batch. Numerous times throughout the night, countless times, they were not discarding these batches. They were taking the ballot that would not go through due to a crease in the paper in the wrong place. And they would set it on top, and they would just rescan the whole batch.
Okay, so let me just slow down a little bit and ask about that particular process, because there's a detail here I think a lot of the audience might not understand. When there's a problem ballot inside of a batch of 50, I think if I understood you correctly, you said that the correct procedure is to discard the entire stack, correct?
Correct.
So how do we then tabulate the votes for those other 49 ballots that were correct?
Because we rescan them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we run them through the tabulator again.
Okay, so we don't discard the entire batch. We just rescan
initially you discard it, and then you take the whole pile again off the top and the ones that have not been ran through yet, and you just rerun them all together.
Okay. So which ones are discarded? I'm still not quite clear on how this works. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure of your question.
You have a stack of 50 ballots.
Yeah.
Let's say ballot number 25.
Out of 50.
Right, is messed up, right? So we're running them through, and the tabulator machine, the scanner as you called it, stops on ballot number 25 because it, I don't know, has a crease or a coffee stain or something, right?
Yeah.
Tell me in just explicit detail for a third grader to understand what is supposed to happen then.
Okay, so what is supposed to happen then is you are supposed to take ballot number 25, and you're supposed to take the ballots that had already been scanned or tabulated that are now on the top of the machine.
Okay.
Okay. And you're supposed to put ballot number 25 on the very top of the batch, and you're supposed to discard the whole batch and then put the batch on the bottom and start over. Just press rescan.
Okay. So all the votes would still end up being counted. What happens with the one that's damaged?
Well, so in that process, when they take ballot number 25 and they put it on the top, they re-straighten out the whole stack again. And ballot number 25 will normally go through.
Okay.
And the reason for putting it on the top is so that issue doesn't happen again and it doesn't scan 25 more in front of, so if that issue happens again, then ballot number 25 is now on top, and it's going to go through that one, and the machine's going to quit. It's going to stop. It's going to throw out an error.
First time that time.
Yes.
Okay,
so
got it.
It quickens the process.
So I hope this doesn't sound like a dumb question, but again, if ballot number 25 is messed up for some reason and can't be counted, and we stop there, and some of those 1 through 24 have already been counted by the machine, if you're going to have to redo this and place number 25 at the top, I think it's safe to say that the tabulator should not be incrementing the vote total by those first 24 because they're supposed to be run again, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now we're on the same page. I got it now. Okay, so it sounds like you saw something different going on, though, when there were these problem ballots. And I want to hear what the difference was and what concerned you.
Okay, so what I saw is, so we're going to keep ballot number 25.
Yes, ballot number 25 is junk.
Okay.
But yes, let's
the
go from
issue
there.
Ballot. Okay, so what I saw is numerous workers when the PC would throw the error out and say ballot number 25, and stop at ballot number 25 has an issue. instead of discarding the entire batch and restarting, they would take the ballots on top of the scanner or the tabulator, and they would put them back in the whole stack. So now we have a batch of 50 again, and they would rescan them. Double counting. That would be double counting ballots. Okay. That would be double counting. But I've seen numerous times them keep doing this. And machines that would say that, I would walk by and the machines would have a number of ballots scanned, and the number should have never went over 50.
So what numbers were you seeing on these?
I was seeing around 400 to 500.
So you're telling me that we had batches of ballots that were being counted, goodness, 9, 10 times.
8 to 10 times.
Wow. So did you ever get a look at what was on those ballots? Did you have any way of knowing whether they were one slate of candidates or another, or straight red, straight blue?
I did. There were times, you have to keep in mind that ballots are hard to read, especially when you cannot touch anything. You have to stay a certain distance away.
Sure.
But yes, I did see numerous ballots throughout the night.
Did you feel that they tended to lean one way or the other in terms of slate of candidates?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you like to tell us for which one?
Yeah, Biden. I did not see not a one ballot for Trump. Not one.
No Trump votes in all of these.
The whole time I was there, I did not see it.
When were you there?
I was there for 24 hours.
On election day?
Yes. From
so
that day.
Tell me again, you got there when, just so I make
6
sure.
6 a.m.
You got there at 6 a.m. and then you left Wednesday about 6 a.m.?
5:30.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So what are the odds of that? I mean, just if everything is on the up and up, and somebody is just making a mistake because they don't know what they're doing, let's assume the best, right? What are the odds, do you think, I'm asking for a speculation here, that all of those ballots in this mistaken batch that's being horribly mishandled by this unfortunate, untrained worker, what are the odds that this is an honest mistake if they're all for one candidate or one set of candidates in one party?
What are the odds?
Sure, I mean, it's perplexing, isn't it? I mean, how can
Absolutely.
this be the case unless there's some sort of intentional malfeasance here?
Absolutely.
Do you have any idea where these ballots were coming from?
I do.
Okay.
I have an idea, yeah. So there was, during that 24-hour shift, there was 2 times that so the TCF Center they were responsible for supplying their employees with food. They said they only had enough food for not even a third of their employees, so they had to bring in food from the outside. It was a big garage door that opened, and these vans that pulled in weren't even big enough they weren't even big enough to carry food in them. I never saw any food being brought out of them.
So you saw vans show up
Yeah.
to the back of the TCF Center?
Yeah.
About when did you see that?
There was one on morning shift and there was one on the night shift.
So the night shift one would have come first then, right? Tuesday night?
No, the morning shift one came first.
Okay, what time was that?
The van, approximate time the van came.
Yes, ma'am.
I would say, 1.
At
Their
1?
lunch was between 1 and 3.
Okay. So the first van came Tuesday at 1 p.m.
Approximately.
Roughly, sure. I'm not trying to, get you down to the minute and second here, just approximately.
Yeah.
And the second one would have been?
I would say the second one was I would say the second one, which is really, really odd now that certain things keep coming to me now that you're asking me this question. It's very odd that the second van came 2 hours before I got off my shift. So around 3:30.
Around 3:30. Okay. Would it surprise you if I were to tell you that you are far from the first person that's told me that a van showed up at 3:30 in the morning on Wednesday with a bunch of boxes of something?
No, it does not surprise me.
And you did personally see this van?
Yeah.
Can you describe it for me?
It was I would say a grayish color, and I believe it was like a transit van.
Okay. Did you see any markings on
No markings at all.
it? Okay. How about the earlier one? I guess we should get that in there too. The one that came at 1 p.m. Did you happen to see that vehicle?
I did. That one was a white actual van, like a little bit larger than a van that you just buy, I guess, for a little bit, just a little larger, like a business. Not transit though.
Okay.
Not a transit van.
Did you see any markings on it?
No, none.
Okay.
I looked for markings on those. There was not.
Okay, so did you happen to see any of these vans being unloaded? Like the contents being brought out of them?
No.
Okay. But you seemed certain earlier that they weren't carrying food.
There would be no way.
Why is that?
Because they only had enough food for 1/3 of the workers. So that would mean that those vans would have to be carrying enough food for the other 2/3.
Right. So give me a picture of what's going on in your mind at this point. You're doing your job. You've been there a long time. You go to the back loading dock. You're near the end of your shift. It's 3:30 in the morning. You see this van just sitting back there. What's on your mind? What are you thinking is happening?
I was thinking exactly that they were bringing in ballots. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Fair enough. So, what made you not want to stick around and watch to confirm that that's what was happening?
I knew that I couldn't confirm it because I wasn't even allowed over in that area.
Did someone try to tell you to leave?
I heard that there were people taking pictures of the license plate, some challengers, and they were asked to leave. So I was there to do IT. And I was told by my manager numerous times that night that I was there to do IT, not to run their election.
Did your manager know that you were going back there to look at the wagon, or excuse me, the van?
No, my manager, I actually brought it to his attention about the ballots being ran numerous times, and the numbers on the PCs being too high.
Oh.
And I actually brought him to one of the workers that was having the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "This is a huge." My exact words to him, I said, "This is a huge issue," and he said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And he pulled me to the side and he said, "Melissa, I don't want to hear that we have a huge issue, And he said, "We're here to do IT. We're not here to run their election."
What's this person's name?
His name is Nick.
And who does he work for?
He works for Dominion Voting.
What is his position with Dominion Voting?
From what he told me, he's an engineer, but from what I heard from a couple other co-workers is that he is one of 4 owners.
You believe he's a co-owner of Dominion Voting?
I do, yeah.
And this company, from what I understand, runs the election systems for not only several counties in Michigan, but for I think a couple dozen states. Correct?
Correct.
And of all the places, if it is in fact true, he's a co-owner. Of all the places he could be on election night, he was in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
You see a big problem, you tell him, and he just shuts you down.
Yeah, he told me he was going to take care of it, and I watched to see if he did, and he did not. He just he literally just walked back up to the stage where we would stand when in between walking around.
Did you ever run into Nick before this? Did you know him socially or anything like that?
No.
Have you seen him since then?
No.
Okay. When did you first notice this problem that you described about these ballots being tabulated more than once?
When I first noticed it, I didn't realize that they were doing it wrong. I first noticed it not even 2 hours after I got there.
Okay. And how long did you see that going on throughout your shift?
The whole time. The whole night.
Where were the Republican poll challengers when this was happening? I mean, the poll challenger's job is supposed to be to watch the process, no matter which party they're from, and keep an eye on it. And if something's out of the ordinary, they're supposed to be making challenges and saying, hey, there's something wrong with this. They report it. It's supposed to go into a challenge book and possibly be adjudicated at some point. Where were the Republican poll challengers when this was going on?
Okay, so they were there. They were behind us. The city workers took the ballots after they are done with the tabulation process. They get put into big steel boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And these boxes, what the city workers did was they lined them up behind the workers, behind the counters, so the challengers could not come close to them.
So they were using these steel boxes to keep the Republican poll challengers away from seeing what you were seeing with the tabulation machines.
Yes, and they used them as a barricade for them to not be able to get.
Can you just sort of with your hands tell me roughly how big each of these boxes is?
Yeah. So they're about this wide.
Okay.
And probably about this deep.
Okay. So they're just making sort of a barrier with this, like a wall or something.
They had them stacked on top of each other, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far away were they keeping the poll challengers? Approximately.
So I would say 10 feet.
Okay.
And then, well, it started at 10 feet, and as the ballot boxes filled up, they would move them back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess the last technical question I can really think of is that as you were seeing this problematic process you described, where you're seeing the count of ballots go up sometimes 800, 900. I think that's the number you gave me. I don't want to put words in your mouth. As you're seeing that happen, are you confident that the number up on that screen is actually being sent to wherever the actual count, the combined count of all the different tabulators is taking place?
No. So on the stage that I mentioned, that was where the main server was. That was where all the IT people were and all the city officials that were running the TCF election that night. The numbers were being inputted. They were being put into the main PC by two. One was a Dominion voting systems employee. His name is Samuel. He's in his mid-20s. And then there was a city worker in his mid-20s. And they had absolutely no overhead at all. And they were putting the numbers into the PC the whole night. The whole time I was there.
Tell me what you mean they had no overhead.
Nobody was watching them.
They had no oversight.
They had no oversight.
Okay. So were they walking from the machines like you were watching, where these votes are being counted again and again, and then just manually reporting that number? How did they? I'm just not really clear on how the number gets from each individual tabulation machine
to the
one in the middle.
That's a question I can't answer.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a question anybody can answer, to be honest, because these numbers, they obviously weren't right, and they could have been these. I mean, mid-20s. I believe Samuel does have a bachelor's degree, but with nobody overseeing something like that, I think anything could happen. And I do know that everybody that was working for Dominion and that was on the stage, they were all for Biden. I was the only person that was not, and I did not say that either.
So how many Dominion staff were there that night, staff or contractors?
There was a total of 4.
Okay. And you know that they were for Biden, how?
Absolutely. They told me.
They all told you this?
Oh, yeah.
Including Nick?
Nick didn't verbally tell me. Nick just had said some comments that that I knew were that I knew, that he was for Biden. He had made a comment about people wearing an American flag on their clothing or their mask, that he knows they're all Trump supporters. He was really getting down on the Republican I'm sorry, sometimes I get lost with the word, the challengers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of them that were trying to see if the adjudication PCs were hooked to the internet, and they were just trying to look. This was between shift change.
Right.
They clearly aren't allowed to touch any of the hardware, just like we're not, but
sure.
They weren't. They just wanted to. They were just observing, and he was very, very pushy with them. And
who was?
Nick.
Okay.
He did not want them seeing what was under the
So I've
stage.
spoken with a couple of those people that you're talking about, and the big question on everybody's mind seems to have been, were the voting machines connected to the internet? They saw Ethernet cabling going around, and it stands to reason that it wouldn't be there unless there was at least a local area network. You're in IT, you know what that means. So the big question once again is that hitting the outside internet somehow? Do you have an answer for that question? Were those computers connected to the internet?
I can't answer that question 100%.
Okay.
99%, yeah.
Can you tell me why you believe that to be true?
Because in the bottom right-hand corner of the PCs, they had a signal.
You're referring to the icon in the taskbar that shows whether you're connected to the internet?
Correct. How
is that different if the computer is only on a local area network versus the internet?
I would,
No pressure. If you don't remember, that's fine. I'm not trying to trip you up here. That just would be an interesting detail. I wish somebody were able to give us a picture of what those things look like so we could go and do our own research, because that would, if they were in fact connected to the internet.
You would actually have to hover your mouse over it,
mm-hmm.
and it would tell you.
Right. And so these other people that you were with, Patrick Kolbeck and I think I assume you're talking about him and one of the other people that I've spoken with. I won't ask you to confirm that, but if it's who I think it was, they're pretty technically minded people. And so they probably know the detail you just pointed out. Or if you hover your mouse over that icon, it's going to tell you connected to the internet or not connected.
Correct.
It seems to me it would be a pretty trivial thing for somebody who was allowed to touch the machines to confirm.
Absolutely.
Were you in a position to make that confirmation? Were you allowed to?
No. No, I wasn't allowed to touch them.
What do you think would have happened if you had done so?
They would have asked me to leave.
You would have lost your job?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Interesting. So, how about Nick? Would he be in a position to tell us whether those machines were connected to the internet?
Absolutely.
Do you have any idea where Nick is right now? How we could get a hold of him and ask him?
Yes, I do. I have his phone number. Yeah.
Would you like to share it with us?
Yeah, it's actually on my phone.
Okay. We don't have to do it on camera, but
Yeah,
it'd be good to know.
yeah. I have his last name. I have the city he lives in. Yeah.
Okay. You, if I may make an observation, I noticed when you came in, you seemed a little bit apprehensive about speaking about this.
Yeah.
Has anything happened that's made you concerned since you discovered this and made the decision to come forward?
I've had a couple of people message me on social media. I've had to take my social media down.
What do they say to you?
To be honest with you, really awful things.
Were these like friends of yours or professional acquaintances or family?
A couple of them were friends
Mhm.
and from high school, and then a couple of them I didn't even know who they were.
And am I correct to understand that whatever nasty thing they said to you was in reference to your decision to speak about your experiences on election night? They said nasty things to you because of that, or was it due to something else?
Oh no, yeah, it was absolutely for. It was because they they're Democrats. They don't want this coming forward. They don't believe a word anybody says. So.
Do they think you're lying?
Truly, honestly, do they think I'm lying? Probably not.
But they're still. Are your friends making that accusation against you on social media because you come forward?
Yes. Yes.
I don't need identities of people who are doing so, but would you be willing to at least share the contents of those messages?
Yeah.
That'd be helpful, thank you.
Yeah. Of the messages that were sent to me?
Yes,
Yeah.
because if you're coming out and you're becoming a whistleblower and you're getting this kind of backlash already, really before your story has made national news, I'm sure in a few hours when you do Hannity it's going to be there, but people need to know that you do pay a price for telling the truth in this country when you have to expose things like this. And that's really, it's kind of a sad commentary on American affairs if you think about it.
It absolutely is.
If you go against a system like that, knowing you're working for a Democrat company, knowing you've got Democrat friends, if you tell the truth, you should still, it shouldn't matter what their political affiliation or yours.